everybody in that detention facility, they see him as their leader. So it's not about a leader agitating for the Igbo cause. He's a leader agitating for Nigerians, for the betterment of Nigerians. So that is the person Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is.
We are talking about a really interesting statement made by Comrade Atiku Yisa, the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, who was detained with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in the DSS facility for over 2 months. And it's not just a statement, it's raising serious questions. Atiku says that during his time in detention, he realized something quite surprising. According to him, the Fulanis, Hausas, and Kanuris in the DSS detention were all loyal to Nnamdi Kanu. And here's the kicker. He says Kanu has more support in the DSS facility than he does outside. Now think about that for a second. This is a major statement, and it's got people talking, especially when you consider the context of Nigeria's political and ethnic dynamics. Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, is mostly associated with the southeast of Nigeria, particularly the Igbo people. So hearing that people from other ethnic backgrounds, especially those traditionally seen as opponents, are loyal to him, is something that really makes you sit up and think. Let's break this down a bit. Atiku isn't just throwing this out there for fun. He was in that DSS detention center with Kanu. So he's speaking from his own experience, and he claims that the support Kanu has among certain groups within that detention is overwhelming. He goes as far as to say that 95% of the people there were loyal to Kanu. Now that number may seem high to some, but even if it's half of that, it still tells us something important about how Kanu is being viewed even behind bars. So why does this matter? First off, if the claim is true, it changes the entire conversation about Kanu and IPOB. The general narrative has always been that Kanu's support is mostly concentrated in the southeast. But if people from the north, Fulanis, Hausas, Kanuris, are backing him, that means his movement has a much wider reach than we've been led to believe. And it's not just about ethnic support. It's about shared beliefs, about how people see his cause. Think about it. In a place like DSS detention, where people from different ethnic groups and regions are thrown together, you're likely to see people break down their regional loyalties in exchange for common cause. It's a place where people don't care much for politics as usual. They care about survival, rights, and freedom. And maybe that's what Kanu represents to a lot of them. Freedom. Even if they're not Igbo, they might see him as someone who stands for something bigger, something that transcends ethnic lines. Atiku's statement also tells us something about the state of detention and political prisoners in Nigeria. It suggests that Kanu isn't just a man fighting for the rights of the Igbo people. He's seen as a symbol of resistance, a figure who has managed to gain support from people who might have never thought of supporting him in the first place. And that's important. The Nigerian government might have hoped that locking him away would stop his movement, but if this claim holds any weight, it's clear that Kanu's influence is growing, not shrinking. Now, before we continue, if you're enjoying this breakdown of what's happening, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more of this real-time news and analysis. But back to the story. The idea that Kanu has more support in detention than he does outside raises a few eyebrows. Why is that? Does it suggest that there's something about his treatment, or maybe even the way he's perceived in detention, that resonates with people in a way that it doesn't in the broader society? We've all heard about people in prisons gaining a following, people in power, political figures, religious leaders. They all sometimes find new followers when they're in tough situations. Is that what's happening here? Is Kanu's detention actually making him more of a figurehead? If that's the case, it's fascinating. It also brings up a larger question. Is Kanu's imprisonment making him a martyr in the eyes of his supporters? We all know that in history, political prisoners often gain a following once they're locked up. They become symbols, figures of resistance. Maybe that's what's happening here. The more the government tries to shut him down, the more his cause gains traction, even among groups that you might not expect to support him. Let's pause for a second. If you think this whole situation is intriguing, hit that like button and share this video with your friends. This is a story that could go in so many directions, and we need to keep following it. So, what does this mean for the future? Well, if Kanu's supporters inside DSS detention are indeed as large as Atiku claims, it means that the government's strategy of keeping him detained might be backfiring. Instead of quieting him down, it could be fueling even more support for him. That's dangerous, not just for the government, but for everyone involved. If people start seeing Kanu as a martyr or a hero who is being unfairly detained, it could lead to even more protests, more calls for his release, and a bigger pushback against the government. Now, let's talk about the protests. The students, led by NANS under Atiku Yisa, have been pretty vocal about this. They've organized protests demanding Kanu's release, and it's only gaining momentum. The government has already had its hands full with trying to control student protests across the country. And if this claim of mass support inside DSS is true, we might see even bigger protests down the road. The Nigerian student body is powerful. They have the numbers, and when they get behind a cause, it's hard to ignore. And here's the thing. Student protests aren't just about making noise. They can effect change. Look at history. Look at how student movements around the world have pushed governments to change. In Nigeria, students have been instrumental in calling out the government for bad policies and corruption. If they get behind Kanu's cause, it could be a major issue for the government. But let's not just focus on the negatives. This also raises a key question about Nigeria's future. If Kanu's movement has found a way to bridge ethnic divides, that's a powerful thing. It shows that the people are beginning to look beyond their ethnic backgrounds and see the bigger picture. They're uniting over shared principles like justice, fairness, and freedom. This could be a turning point. It could mean that Nigerian citizens are starting to push back against the political system that has kept them divided. And that's something the government should take seriously. The people are speaking, and they want change. Now, we don't know what will happen in the long term, but we do know that the pressure is building. The government can only keep Kanu in detention for so long without facing more public outcry. And if his support is as widespread as Atiku claims, it could lead to a bigger movement, one that's not just about Kanu, but about the future of Nigeria itself. As we dive deeper into the story, let's consider the impact this could have on Nigeria's political landscape. We've seen time and again how political movements can shift public perception. The more support Kanu gets, the harder it will be for the government to keep treating this as just another local issue. If the support continues to spread, especially across different ethnic groups, we could be looking at a national movement rather than just a regional one. Think about the influence of the youth. Nigerian students have a powerful role to play in shaping the future of the country. These protests and movements for Kanu's release aren't just about one person. They are about the freedom to express dissatisfaction with the government, the right to stand up against what's seen as an injustice, and the power of collective voices. We've seen in the past how student-led movements can gain international attention, and this one, with the claim of broad support, could be the spark for something much larger. Now, I know some of you might be wondering, why is this such a big deal? Why should we care about one individual in detention? Well, it's not just about Kanu himself. It's about what his case represents. His detention has become a symbol of how the government treats its own citizens, how it responds to dissent, and how it handles issues of self-determination. The way this case unfolds could set a precedent for how future political prisoners are treated in Nigeria. It's not just Kanu's future at stake. It's the future of political activism, the way Nigerians are allowed to express their opinions, and how the government responds to that. It also leads us to ask, where do we go from here? If the government continues to hold Kanu without providing a fair trial or due process, what message does that send to the people? If public support continues to grow, inside detention and outside, will it force the government to rethink its strategy? Or will they double down, pushing the country into a larger political crisis? Let's also consider the role of the media here. Public perception is shaped not only by what we see happening on the ground, but also by what the media chooses to highlight. If the media continues to report on these claims of widespread support for Kanu inside detention, it could amplify the sense of injustice. The power of social media, especially among the youth, means that this story can spread far beyond Nigeria's borders. The world is watching, and the government knows that. We also need to think about the international angle. This isn't just a Nigerian issue anymore. It's becoming a global conversation. Human rights groups, international governments, and the media are paying attention. If there's any truth to Atiku Yisa's claim about the level of support Kanu has inside detention, it could become a rallying cry for those advocating for political freedom and justice. The narrative of Kanus being unjustly detained could inspire international pressure, pushing for his release or a fair trial. This could potentially affect Nigeria's global reputation, especially in terms of human rights and governance. It's also important to remember that Nigeria is a country with a complex, multi-ethnic and multi-religious population. So, when we see claims of cross-ethnic support for someone like Kanu, it challenges the idea that people are only loyal to political leaders based on ethnicity. It shows that the fight for justice and freedom isn't confined to one ethnic group or region. It's a struggle that transcends those boundaries. And that's a powerful message to send, especially in a country like Nigeria, where ethnic and regional divides have often been used for political gain. Now, let's step back for a moment and think about the bigger picture. We've talked a lot about Kanu, the students, and the protests. But what does this all mean for Nigeria's future? How will this story shape the way Nigerians view their government, their leaders, and the future of the country? We've seen how movements can grow and evolve, and this could be one of those moments. It could lead to broader conversations about governance, human rights, and the need for political reform in Nigeria. With all this in mind, we're left with a few key questions. Will Kanu's support inside the DSS detention remain a story that fades away, or will it continue to gain momentum? How will the government respond in the coming months? And most importantly, what does this mean for Nigeria's political future? This is the part where we need to stay informed, keep asking questions, and engage in meaningful conversations. Nigeria's future is in the hands of its people, students, activists, and everyday citizens who are voicing their concerns and demanding change. Whether this movement for Kanu's release becomes a tipping point or just another chapter in Nigeria's ongoing political saga is still to be seen. But one thing is clear, the people are watching, and the world is watching too. If you're still following this story and you want to stay updated on what happens next, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll keep bringing you all the latest updates on this and more. And remember, it's important to keep engaging with these issues, sharing your thoughts and staying informed. We're all part of this conversation, and every voice matters. As we wrap up, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the claim that Kanu has more support inside DSS than outside? Do you think his detention is actually helping his cause? And what does it mean for the future of Nigeria if this trend continues? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all the latest developments. This is a story we'll definitely be following, and trust me, there's a lot more to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.